Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we push the boundaries of what you can do on a low-end PC. Today, I'm testing Metaphor ReFantazio on my trusty i3 powered laptop with no graphics card. Yes, you heard it right, just raw, integrated graphics. Now, this game has been on my radar for a while, so I thought, why not see if it can survive on my low-end setup? Will it thrive or crash and burn like that time I tried Elden Ring? Let's dive in and find out if Metaphor ReFantazio is low-spec gamer-friendly or if we're looking at another PowerPoint presentation. So, right off the bat, I fired up Metaphor ReFantazio with a 720p resolution because, let's face it, that's basically the holy grail for us low-end gamers. Anything higher, and my laptop starts sounding like a jet about to take off. Now, as for the graphics settings, well, there wasn't much to tinker with. It's like walking into a fancy restaurant and realizing your only options are bread and water. You get the basics, shadows, textures, effects, but nothing too fancy. Naturally, I turned everything down to low or just switched it off entirely, because who needs beautifully rendered shadows when you're fighting to survive frame by frame, right? Let's talk about the FPS now, because that's where the real drama unfolds. In the open-world areas, the game performance fluctuates between a somewhat bearable 15 FPS to a more respectable 30 FPS, depending on what kind of action is happening on screen. Picture this. You're wandering through these gorgeous, lush fields, but then, the game decides it's time for a break. Everything slows down like you're walking through molasses. Let's call it a cinematic pause, because that sounds way cooler than my PC is struggling to breathe and the stutters? Oh. They're like surprise guest appearances that no one asked for. You'll be running along, taking in the sights, and suddenly your laptop goes, "Hold on a sec, let me catch up." It's kind of like playing in slow motion, but hey, that just adds to the dramatic effect, right? It's like my i3 wants to make sure I really take in the scenery, one frame at a time. Now, when it comes to the one-on-one fight scenes, this is where the FPS gods smile upon us. I'm talking a solid 45 plus FPS. Yes, you heard me right, 45. It's like my laptop suddenly found a burst of energy, like a runner at the finish line. The fights are actually pretty smooth and responsive here, so at least you can enjoy the combat without feeling like you're trapped in a time warp. Sure, it's still not going to win any beauty contests, but compared to how the game chugs along in the open fields, these fight scenes feel like pure bliss. It's almost like the game and my PC have reached some kind of peaceful truce for those moments. So, I played the full demo of Metaphor ReFantazio, and I have to say, after the mild letdown that was Soul Hackers, Atlas seems to have taken the feedback to heart. It's like they woke up one morning and decided, okay, enough messing around, let's give the people what they've been craving. And it shows. From the very first moments, the game grabs your attention. There's no hand-holding, no 5-minute tutorial telling you how to press buttons you've known how to press since the dawn of video games. You just get thrown into this magical world, and honestly, that's refreshing. In a time where every game wants to explain even the most basic mechanics, Atlas is like, you'll figure it out, don't worry. And you know what? That's a win in my book. It's like they respect your time, and that's something I really appreciate. Now, let's talk about the main character. Finally, a protagonist with personality. If you've played any SMT or Persona games before, you'll know what I mean when I say that sometimes these characters are so neutral, you might as well be controlling a cardboard cutout. Not this time. The dialogue choices feel like they actually mean something. You're not just picking good guy option 1 or evil guy option 2 like in so many other RPGs. The choices are nuanced, and they make you feel like you're shaping the story in a way that feels genuine. I mean, sure, I'm still playing this on a low-end PC where the facial animations are about as expressive as a potato, but I can tell the character's written with depth and intention, and that counts for a lot. And don't get me started on the companion. I was half expecting another annoying sidekick, like one of those NPCs that just trails behind you, repeating the same 2 lines of dialogue over and over again. But Atlas did the smart thing here. The companion isn't just there to fill space. They're actually a well-fleshed-out character, with their own backstory, personality, and role in the game. It feels like a real partnership, not just someone following you around to look cool during cutscenes. And I'll admit, that's a big relief, especially since so many games get this wrong. As for the gameplay itself, wow. Even though I'm playing this on my low-end setup, with the game running on the lowest settings and my poor laptop practically wheezing in the background, the world still feels massive and immersive. Sure, my expansive world is more like a pixelated landscape with very creative use of fog and shadows to hide the graphical sacrifices. But hey, that's life when you're gaming without a dedicated GPU. The important thing is, the world feels alive. It's a fantasy game done right. Rich lore, vibrant environments, and characters that draw you into the story, even if those environments are sometimes a little more blurry than they were intended to be. And then there's the combat. This is where the game really shines, even on my humble setup. It's fast, it's fluid, and it's fun. The one-on-one fights are where my FPS finally decides to play nice, and I can really appreciate the battle mechanics. It's got that familiar SMT tactical feel, but with a new layer of complexity that keeps things fresh. I found myself genuinely enjoying the challenge, which is something I didn't expect while running on such low settings. The game still manages to deliver on that Atlas trademark of deep, satisfying combat, even if the animations sometimes feel a little choppy because, well, integrated graphics have their limits. One thing that really struck me is how well Atlas has blended that classic SMT vibe with something new. They've nailed the atmosphere. The world feels dark, but not in a depressing way. It's more like a place you want to explore, even if you know it's full of dangers. The enemies are interesting, the lore is rich, and the game doesn't hold back on making you think strategically. You can see the effort that's gone into creating a world that feels alive, and I can't help but appreciate that, even if my laptop occasionally needs a breather. And honestly, this game left me wanting more. It got me thinking, if Atlas can do this with a new title, imagine what they could do with a remake of the classics, SMT3, SMT4, and Digital Devil Saga. Now that would be a dream come true. Just thinking about revisiting those worlds with today's technology, or in my case, yesterday's technology running on today's titles, is enough to make any RPG fan drool. Let's just hope they don't pull a Soul Hackers on us again. Alright, so to wrap things up, can Metaphor ReFantazio run on a low-end PC like mine? The short answer is, yes, it can. But should it? Well, that's a whole other story. Now, if you're someone like me, running on an i3 processor with no dedicated graphics card, you already know what it's like to live on the edge. We don't expect high-end visuals or silky smooth 60 FPS. What we want is simple, playability. And that's exactly what Metaphor ReFantazio delivers, albeit with a few caveats. In terms of visuals, let's just say the game isn't winning any beauty pageants when played on this setup. It's like watching a low-budget fantasy film from the 90s. You've got the grand ideas, but the execution is a little pixelated. The textures? Kind of blurry. The effects? Simplified. Shadows? Let's pretend they don't exist. But if you're willing to overlook that, the game still manages to immerse you in its world. After all, when the frame rate isn't dropping to single digits, you'll find yourself appreciating what Metaphor ReFantazio does right. Performance-wise, the game is a mixed bag. During open-world exploration, things can get a little choppy, with FPS dipping as low as 15 at times. It's like your laptop decided it needed a quick power nap while you're running through fields. But when the game focuses on more enclosed environments or one-on-one fights, the performance picks up. The game consistently hits 45 FPS or higher during combat sequences, and that's when it truly shines. Those moments made all the lag and stutters worth it, and I actually started to enjoy the experience more as I got used to the pace. But I won't lie, playing Metaphor ReFantazio on this setup is kind of like playing the game on hard mode, except the difficulty isn't from the game itself, but from your PC trying to keep up. You get used to the slowdowns and start anticipating when the game might stutter, like when a big landscape appears or when you're about to face a boss. It's almost like a sixth sense for low-spec gamers. The dramatic pauses caused by FPS drops, I like to think of them as tension-building moments. It's like the game is saying, wait for it, now fight. It adds a little unpredictability, a little extra spice to the combat. At least this time, my laptop didn't turn into a space heater or meltdown, so that's already a win compared to some of the other games I've tested. So, is it the smoothest gaming experience ever? No, but for us low-spec warriors, it's definitely playable. And hey, when you're on a budget, playable is sometimes the best we can ask for. And that's a wrap, folks. I hope you enjoyed this review of Metaphor ReFantazio on my humble low-end PC. It's been a fun ride. Well, maybe a bumpy one with some lag spikes along the way, but it was still fun. If you're in the same boat as me, running an i3 without a dedicated graphics card, I hope this review gives you a clear idea of what to expect. It's not a perfect experience, but it's a doable one. As long as you have some patience and maybe a sense of humor. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more games getting tortured on my low-end setup. Seriously, I'm always on the lookout for new games to test, so if you've got any recommendations or just want to share your own low-spec gaming struggles, drop a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys, especially when we're all in the same FPS-starved boat together. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, with fewer lag spikes and a slightly less exhausted laptop. Until then, happy gaming, and remember, if your PC can handle it, so can you. Enjoy the rest of the gameplay.
Let's go. Scour. How's that?
We've got to hit the other spots too.
I won't hold back. Wind.